Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to today's webinar on navigating the path to tourism demand recovery in Asia Pacific. Today's webinar is actually in conjunction with the release for upcoming reports, our individual 39 destination forecast reports, as well as our Asia Pacific forecast reports, mid-year updates for 2024 to 2026. Now, before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Paul Brancan. I'm the Chief of Staff at the Pacific Asia Travel Association, otherwise known as PATA, and I will be your host for today. Now, before we jump right into it and get to our first speaker, allow me just to go over one quick note. I know that many of you have used Zoom many times, but just as a reminder and refresher, on the bottom of your browser, you'll see a couple functions. If you have any questions for our speakers, please submit them using the Q&A function as shown on your screen. Please do not submit them using the chat function because it's just too much for me to toggle between chat and Q&A during the discussion part of the webinar. So please, any questions, please submit them using the Q&A function. However, in the chat function, please just feel free to make comments if you wish about the presentations, or if you want to say hello and where you're from, or engage with our delegates, feel free to use the chat function as shown on your screen. My colleagues as well, if there's any updates or anything, they'll also put some information into the chat just for information. And just to get us right off from the start, I know that this question comes up a lot regarding presentations. We will be sending a thank you note next week after the webinar is over with links to some presentations that will be available. Maybe not all of them will be available. I believe one of them, they still need to check internally if the presentation can be made public, but that information will be all included in the thank you letter. Thank you letter to all of our delegates next week when we send that out, as well as a link for the recording of this webinar. But once you do receive the link, please do not share it publicly or with any third party, as it is only for members as well as registered delegates to today's webinar. All right, so any questions for me or for PATA, feel free to drop them into the chat. However, for any questions for any of the speakers, do drop them into the Q&A function. All right, without further ado, let's get to our first speaker of the day. With us from the School of Hotel and Tourism Management at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, he is the assistant professor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Anyu Liu. All right, Dr. Liu, over to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So it looks good, right? Okay, so yeah, on behalf of Person, because he cannot join the webinar today, so on behalf of Person, I would like to share the Asia Pacific Visitor Forecast 2024 to 2026. So this is the agenda of the presentation, starting from the introduction, followed by a brief introduction of the methodology, and I will share the key destination and source markets included in the presentation, and also some key findings from the inbound forecast and also the outbound forecast. Then is the key takeaway of today. So a little bit introduction. Well, by the end of the third quarter 2023, we can see the overall tourism market has recovered to 87% compared to the pre-COVID-19, which is 2019 level. And this is mainly because that most destinations in the world have already reopened their market, and also some destinations they waive the visa policies, they waive the visa requirements to certain source markets. For example, Singapore to China, Thailand to China, and also China to Malaysia and France, etc. And also after the COVID-19, the world economy has started to recover. This can be also a main driving force for the recovery of the international travel market. But because in addition to the positive side, we do have some limitations, constraints to slow down the recovery of the international travel market. For example, the rising inflation rate in some key source markets, for example, Europe and the States, And also the regional conflicts between, we say, Russia and Ukraine, and also the lack of manpower in the whole tourism and hospitality industry has been a topic that we discussed for a long time. Then from both the positive side and the negative side, we would like to use this material methodology to further update our forecast based on the main forecast we published early this year. So in line with the previous year's reports, we still use 3 stages to generate the forecast. In terms of the first stage is the quantitative modeling and the forecasting. It depends on the sample size, or we say if we have enough data to either use the time series modeling or the econometric modeling. After that, after we generated the quantitative methods, then we will automatically adjust the models based on the recovery path and also the baseline forecasts. And then the last stage, we will use our, we say, expertise and understanding of the different markets to generate a scenario forecast and adjust the numbers based on the history, experience, and also our knowledge and understanding of the markets. So these are the key 39 destinations, including in the reports, covering Southeast Asia, South Asia, West Asia, the Americas, Northeast Asia, and the Pacific. And we can see that before COVID, China is the largest destination, not only in Northeast Asia, but also in the Asia Pacific, followed by, we say, Thailand in Southeast Asia, India in South Asia, and the USA in the Americas. So far, we only have Turkey, one destination in West Asia, and Hawaii is the largest destination in the Pacific region. This slide shows the top source markets in Asia Pacific in 2019. And we can see the top source markets, including China, Hong Kong. The third one is the USA, Korea, and followed by Macau. This is the ranking of 2019. And we can see based on our forecast in 2024, or we say this year, the ranking will be as same as 2019. So somehow we can say that from the source market perspective, the international travel market has recovered to the pre-COVID level. Then let's see some updates of the forecasts. First, the overall is a grand total forecast. Based on the latest data we have, we predict that we still have the 3 scenarios: mild, medium, and severe. So based on the medium scenario, by the end of 2024, or is this year, the overall market, or Asia Pacific region, will recover to close to 90% compared to the pre-COVID level. Then by 2026, we will fully recover to 111%. Always say by the end of 2026, visitor arrivals to the whole Asia Pacific region will reach 762 million. And the mild scenario shows it will recover to 910 million. And in the severe scenario, it's a little bit low, which is close to 6 million. If we go to the different subregions, for example, in the Americas, visitor arrivals to the Americas will outperform the 2019 level in 2024, even in 2024, in the mild scenario, which would be 174 million. And if we look at the medium scenario, by 2026, by the end of 2026, it will reach 168 million, which is 11.1% more than the 2019 level. So we say the ease of visa restrictions and the mitigation of labor shortage can be the potential demand and supply side drivers of America's tourism recovery. As we know that we say the accessibility between China and America, or we say the airline, has not fully recovered. So this can also be a potential driving force for the recovery, not only for America, I think, but also for China. So if we go to the Northeast Asia market, we can see by the end of 2026, it is predicted that in the medium scenario, there will be 330 million visitors travel to the Northeast Asia, which is 100.9% of the pre-pandemic level. As I just mentioned, the openness, connectivity are the main driving force, or say potential influencing factors for the recovery of the Northeast Asia market. And also, as always, the economic recovery rate is also the potential driving force. For South Asia, under the mild and the medium scenario in 2024, in these scenarios, the inbound travel market in South Asia will both recover to the pre-pandemic level. In the mild scenario, which is 134%, and in the medium scenario is a little bit higher than the pre-pandemic level. By 2026, there will be 25 million visitors to the South Asia market in the mild scenario, and also 20 million in the medium scenario. So for the South Asia, we believe that the safety and the stability of the destinations are crucial for the recovery of the market. For Southeast Asia, by 2024, 119% recovery rate in the mild scenario and 97% in the medium scenario. So by 2026, in the medium scenario, there will be 157 million visitors to the Southeast Asia market. And the intra and the interregional connectivity, again, we mentioned that the connectivity could be the driving force for the recovery of this market. For the West Asia, I always say Turkey. In 2024, based on in the mild scenario, the recovery rate will be 133%, and in the medium scenario, it will be 114. So by 2026, the recovery rate in the medium scenario, it will be 26% compared to the pre-pandemic level, and the visitor number will be 57 million. As we know that, and we also believe that for the regional stability is a key to maintain West Asia, or we say Turkey's recovery rate. Then the Pacific. The Pacific, by the end of 2026, we predict there will be 30 million visitors travel to the Pacific, and the recovery rate is 109% compared to the 2019 level. If the bilateral or multilateral visa restriction can be removed, then there will be more visitors to visit those destinations. After we have a general review of the sub-regional level, then we come to the key destinations. The first destination we would like to introduce is the USA. So by the end of 2024 and 26, the recovery rate will be 93% and 105.2% in the medium scenario, i.e. in the medium scenario, the recovery rate will be 93% and 105% in 2024 and 2026, respectively, i.e. that by 2026, there will be 73 million people travel to the USA. And in line with the before pandemic level, Canada and Mexico are the two key source markets for the USA market. Then we come to China. For China, the recovery rate in 2024 would be only 80% across all scenarios. But we believe that by the end of 2026, the recovery rate will reach to 96.5, or we say almost close to the pre-pandemic level. And the visitor arrivals to China in the medium scenario, it will be 125 million. Again, Hong Kong and Macau are the dominant and always are the key source market for the mainland China market. And the ease of visa restrictions can further boost the recovery of the China market. For Thailand, by 2026, we believe the recovery rate can reach 107%. And in the medium scenario, there will be 33 million people traveling to Thailand. And China will become the dominant source market from 2024 onwards, which is consistent with the pre-pandemic level. So the ease of visitors' health and safety concerns and also the entry requirement will encourage further recovery. So Thailand has already waived the visa for visitors from China. So and the effect can be seen from the fast recovery of Thailand. Then for India, the recovery rate for 2024 and 2026 would be 103% and also 119 or 120% in the medium scenario. So Bangladesh and the USA are always the key source market for India, and we believe that the policy that launched by the Indian government, the Union Budget 2023, will improve the tourism infrastructures, which can further help the recovery of the Indian market. Hawaii, we can see a strong recovery in 2024, but it will be slowed down in 2026. While the US will still be dominant source market of Hawaii, Japan's contribution will continue to increase. From this figure, we can see that there will be a little bit a decrease in 2026 for Hawaii. Partially, this is because as an island economy, the recovery for Hawaii in the first, obviously, right after the pandemic is fast, but then it will slow down a bit. And also, as we just mentioned, Japan is one of the key source market for Hawaii, but considering the exchange rate and also the economic recovery in Japan, we say the recovery of the Japanese market in the long run, there could be a question mark there. Then if we look at the outbound forecast, literally it is the top source markets in the Asia Pacific. So China is always the top source market in Asia Pacific, and Hong Kong, Macau are the top two destinations for Chinese visitors. Then we can see from this table, Thailand will come back to the third largest destination for Chinese visitors, but it will drop to the fourth because it will be surpassed by Japan by 2026. And for Chinese visitors, the digitalization will drive Chinese outbound market because they are very familiar to use social media for marketing and also use the mobile phone for booking. But health and safety concerns may impede mainland Chinese outbound travel. So for Hong Kong, China and Macau are their top two destinations, followed by Japan, Thailand, Korea. And mainland China and Macau will receive 53.6 million and 8.6 million visitors from Hong Kong in 2026. Outbound market shares of Hong Kong remain stable. We can see from this table is almost the same across 2019, 2024, and 2026. For the USA, 58, 45, and 37 million visitors are forecast to depart from the USA to Asia Pacific region in 2026 under the three scenarios respectively. And China's ranking will improve over time, become the third top destination for US visitors, following Canada and Hawaii. Hong Kong is also predicted to improve its position in the US outbound market, improve a little bit from the 14th in 2024 to the 8th in 2026. Korea, the ranking for Korea outbound market are forecast to revert back to the pre-pandemic level. And top three destinations for Korea are Japan, China, and Vietnam. Macau, it seems like Macau will be more popular in Korea, and based on our forecast, we can see that Macau will move to the ninth largest destination for Korean visitors by 2026. So this is most of the information I would like to share today and some key takeaways. First, the region will receive 910 million and 761 million, almost close to 600 million visitors in 2026 under the three different scenarios. If we look at the subregions, Northeast Asia will restore its market share in 2026 for 43% versus only less than 15% in 2022. The highest recovery is witnessed in South Asia. Under the mild scenario, it can reach to 161 recovery rate. From the South market perspective, the top 5 South market in the Asia Pacific region are China, Hong Kong, the USA, Korea, and Macau. Overall market share will return to the pre-pandemic level in 2026. So if we want to further help the destinations of South market to recover, some key drivers, including the economic performance and bilateral or multilateral removal of the visa restrictions, and also the supply side improvement in regional connectivity, and also digital transformation of tourism. And also we can also think about the recovery of the labor force in our industry. So thank you for your listening. This is all I would like to share today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Liu, for your presentation. We'll be back with Dr. Liu later on during the panel discussion at the towards the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions for him, please do feel free to drop it into the Q&A, and we'll ask him the question then, and he'll be able to answer it then. So so please do drop your questions in there if you have any questions for him. All right, so now we've come to our next presenter, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Senior Head of Travel Research at Euromonitor International. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Caroline Bremner. Caroline, over
Great.
to you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me a sec. Is that all okay?
Yep, looks good.
Excellent. So thank you very much. It's great to be speaking today. And so I'm going to be talking about how to navigate the path to tourism recovery in Asia Pacific, sharing some of the latest results from Euromonitor International's travel survey, and also some of the mega trends that we're seeing over the long term. And I've also got some interesting priorities that we're seeing for businesses in terms of innovation that might be food for thought for travel businesses and destinations as they, chart their path to recovery. So I'd just like to start with the Asia Pacific consumer and travel priorities that we're seeing coming through from our travel survey. I would say that this is very much on the source market perspective. And what we can see is that, well, overall, we are seeing a little bit of uncertainty from consumers. We're seeing much more interest in saving. So you can see across all the generations, every single generation is looking to save a little bit more compared to last year. But what we are seeing is still this prioritization of spending on travel, tourism, all those, great experiences that consumers are interested in. And we see that led, as there in the orange bar, we can see that the millennials continue to be the most keen on spending on travel. But we can see there are some other priorities that travel is up against in terms of spending. That's, for example, in health and wellness, or, sort of essentials such as groceries. So, but the good news is that we are continuing to see this strong interest continuing, even after that sort of revenge travel period that we went through, and now we're moving into this kind of more normalization in the recovery. Just to say as well on the sort of the younger cohorts of the Gen Z and the millennials, that we did see a slightly sort of stronger increase compared to last year in terms of savings. So as I say, there is a little bit of caution out there in the market. When it comes to looking at those key source markets that Dr. Liu was showing us, this is looking at sort of spending plans on travel across those kind of key source markets for PATA. There is a kind of mixed bag. To be honest, we see that, yes, there is strong interest from India, China, Hong Kong, but it's slowing down compared to last year. But at the same time, it's still, looking strong for China and India, even if less than last year. However, on the other side, we are seeing increased interest and growth coming from the likes of the US, and we obviously know they're a long haul, high spending market. We see increased interest year on year for Malaysia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, and also for Japan, even though we know that the macroeconomic climate there is challenging. When it comes to those sort of very important conversations or sources of inspiration for our key source markets, we can see that actually word of mouth continues to be the dominant source of inspiration for discovery, for getting those ideas. And I think that's really important. We see it coming from conversations with family, conversations with colleagues, with friends. But that's not to say that social media doesn't play a very important role. As we know, consumers are, online all the time, hyper connected, very digitally savvy. But it's always that word of mouth, storytelling sort of conversation that's that true inspiration for going off and booking that trip. However, we do see, particularly in Asia Pacific compared to the global average, that social media influencers are more influential in the region, 31%. And also we have celebrities on social media at 28%. Again, more impactful than, say, around the rest of the world. When it comes to the sort of the travel features, the attributes that consumers in the region are looking for, we can see across the sort of the generations a strong interest in relaxation. These are the top 5 factors they're looking for: safety, relaxation, value for money, quality of food and dining, and that sort of nature positive experience, so nature and outdoors, and getting some really sort of great experiences in the wilderness, or even sort of on the beach, whatever. In terms of the generations, we do see that millennials are particularly prioritizing relaxation, obviously in the workforce, needing downtime. But then there are some differences. We see that baby boomers, for example, are much more interested in safety, and that health aspect is very important. And what really struck me was the fact, in terms of value for money, is very important, particularly for Gen X, but less so for Gen Z. So for younger people, they're less sort of looking for value for money. It's all about the experience, the immersion, the authenticity. So I thought that was quite an interesting finding. When it comes to, what's going to sort of convert that looker to a booker, we do see these very important travel preferences when they're making their booking by generation. So, for example, the flexibility, the digital transformation that Dr. Liu was talking about is very important, making things seamless. Making it contactless, embedded finance, seamless payments, as we see with the digital wallets, very important and resonating particularly with millennials. So 50% of our respondents said that was really important. Equally, flexibility, very strong attribute that the older generations, the baby boomers and Gen X are looking for. And then Gen Z, very interested in personalization. And as we know, there's huge opportunities to ramp up personalization thanks to the next generation of, generative AI, ChatGPT, and we know that that's very much being integrated into apps and, trip planning and itineraries. So great opportunity there. But equally, we know that that word of mouth is so important. So it's also a combined human touch with that digital transformation. So I'm now going to switch gears slightly and talk long term and thinking, well, where should we be positioning our businesses and our destinations going forward in terms of those longer term megatrends that we know are going to last the distance? And then sort of looking at how Euromonitor's clients, all the businesses that we work with, including travel, are, looking at innovation and positioning for the future. So at Euromonitor, we have a great team that are working across the megatrends, and we've identified these top 10 megatrends for the next couple of decades. When it's looking at Asia Pacific's priorities, looking to 22 to 2032, we can see that convenience, shopping reinvented, so that omni-channel presence, that digitalization, that in-store experience, very important, and digital living are by far the most popular trends that we're seeing in the region. Sadly, experience more, which is where we see food service and travel sort of pulled down because of what happened in COVID. The good news is we are updating this and we'll have some new data to share shortly later in the year. But, just to say, convenience really resonating for APAC consumers, growing at a compound annual rate of 16%, and then that omni-channel digital shopping reinvented, growing at 12%. When it comes to the priorities of experience more, so that's where consumers are looking for that enhanced experience either in person or online. In terms of the advanced markets, we can see that Australia and Hong Kong, by far over the next sort of 10 years or 8 years even, will be looking very strong, growing at 9% CAGR versus 6%. When it comes to the emerging markets in the region, it's interesting to see that India, Philippines, Indonesia, and Mexico, I know, is of interest to PATA members. They're growing less strong, but still there's growth there. And I just feel it's important that we take this longer view to make sure that we are building resilience into our business plans. When it comes to actual innovation and the priorities that we're seeing by businesses across the board, that technical and digital acceleration continues to be the number one priority. And equally, that helps to deliver convenience. And we also see this increased demand for value for money from consumers. And the businesses that we work say, the majority say that they are influenced and their strategies for innovation are driven by those consumer trends that we've just looked at. Equally, we can see that innovation often is driven by the need to solve a problem. So that accounted for 57% of our industry respondents. And I think the next one is so important. The 52% are focused on value creation. Those shared values, that mean something for that consumer. There's an emotional connection with that attribute or that feature. And also collaborative approaches to innovation. So I do feel that this is quite interesting. Equally, the fact that we have 75% of the businesses we work with are focused on consumer trend analysis, 65% on market research, whether that's, quantifying, looking at addressable markets, and then 38% looking at competitor intelligence. When it comes to, driving innovation and creating new types of businesses, we see that the Euromonitor client base is focusing very much on direct to consumer and equally looking at new types of digital platforms, whether that's in-game opportunities or the metaverse. And I know we've talked about the metaverse previously, but that Web 3.0 evolution is going to be coming in and creating disruption over the next couple of years. Equally, we can see that for communicating innovations, we see the importance of social media by far, 74% using that, versus less sort of activity on the website or traditional media. But then the importance of these influencers and the storytelling, whether that's with your consumers direct to consumers. When it comes to, driving new product development, again, this importance of alignment with consumers, their values, their passions, their preferences, that was the #1 driver of new product development. And I'm really delighted to see that sustainability is up there, because that's something that we know is fundamental to transition and transformation in businesses going forward to meet the 2030 and the net zero targets by 2050. The challenges that we're hearing are the fact that there's a lack of funding, sometimes a lack of talent and resources in-house to create that innovation. So we have to be creative about creating innovation to solve those problems and challenges. So just like to summarize for today, what we're seeing is that travel remains a priority purchase for APAC consumers, although we know that there's caution, uncertainty in the macroeconomic environment, and sometimes they are having to prioritize. What we're seeing is that experiences that and booking experiences as well that are driven by seamless, by contactless, it's very easy, it's convenient, that's really resonating, and it helps convert those consumers from just looking to actually booking. And of course, we need to continue to invest in innovation and align more with the values that our consumers and beliefs that they're concerned about. Equally, we have to solve those problems for them and create that shared value. So just like to say once again, thank you to Pata for having me today, and looking forward to the Q&A shortly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. All right, first I'd like to welcome back Caroline and Dr. Liu. And really, I'm just going to ask one question, because it seems like there's a common thread between all our presentations, and we're listing the economic situation really being a heavy factor on travel and travel demands. As you said, seeing from Japan outbound or Japan inbound China. So in terms of that, what is the sort of the economic outlook for, I guess, Asia Pacific, China, Japan? Do you guys have sort of an idea of, if it looks bleak, if it looks positive, if it remains kind of flat? Caroline, Leon, do you have any insights into what that economic outlook looks like over the next, 6 months or a couple of years out?
I'll just jump in, because usually I do come along with lots of macroeconomic data, but today I didn't. But what we tend to see is that the long-term view for Asia Pacific is very positive. So, it's the growth driver of the global economy, driven by those very strong economic powerhouses of India and China. Obviously, as we've all said, and Leo mentioned, that China has been slow to recover, but when it comes back, it will come back even stronger. And we know that India continues to be a very strong, high growth industry or economy. And of course, there's huge potential there. And these are highly populous nations. And of course, we've got Indonesia, we've got the whole of Southeast Asia. Everywhere you look, there are opportunities for growth. And what I would say is that we have to make that sustainable, and it has to be managed responsibly. So that's I don't think there is a concern per se about Asia Pacific economically, but it is just managing it, as I say, very, very responsibly.
I see Leon nodding his head. You want to add to that?
No, I would agree with all of those comments. I guess some of the other things that we kind of watch would be sort of the monetary policy of some of the governments across the region. So I think recently the Japan Central Bank have started to ease some of their interest rate policy there. Overnight, I think Canada had dropped some of the official cash rate. So I think as we start to gain more I guess, confidence that inflation is under control in many of the jurisdictions that we kind of look at. The hope is that might kind of bring on a new bout of discretionary spend, which hopefully will be spent on tourism by some of those consumers as well. But I think we remain fairly optimistic for the same reasons that Caroline had outlined.
And Dr. Liu, your thoughts?
Well, I'm very happy to hear what the other two guys said, because the macroeconomic conditions, they are the driving force for the recovery of the inbound markets, not only for Japan, China, but also for the whole Asia Pacific market.
Well, all right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's good that we're very positive on the economic outlook. So, hopefully that with that will then help drive tourism recovery in the region to at least, especially for this year. I know it doesn't look 100%, but hopefully if the economic change and shift more positively, maybe that could reach 100% according to the forecast numbers. But we're running out of time, so I do want to get to these questions here. So I think each one is for a particular speaker. So I'll go with the first one here. Dr. Liu, what is your prediction on Sri Lanka?
Well, I checked the unpublished individual reports. So based on our latest forecast, recovery rate for Sri Lanka in the medium scenario would be 133%, which is also very high, because as I mentioned that the South Asia is the fastest recovery region in Asia Pacific. So we are very confident on the recovery of Sri Lanka.
So that's 130% by 2026 or by?
By 2026, the recovery rate would be 100% and 133%.
By 2026. Okay. All right. Yeah. And Delaney, we have, I said, the individual forecast reports will be out on the 25th. So, if you're from a government agency, of course, it's a government member or destination member, it is free to download the reports. So you can find more detailed information about Sri Lanka. It's one of the 39 destinations. So please reach out to us for any questions about the individual destination reports. All right, the next question is for Caroline. I would love to know what convenience entails. Are we talking about booking convenience, travel convenience, payment convenience?
If it's where we were talking about the mega trends, convenience it's across all consumer touch points. So it's, convenience in terms of retailing, it's convenience in terms of booking, in terms of payments. And as I say, we do have these 10 mega trends, and we've been monitoring them for over 7 years now. And so if anybody would like to get in touch, happy to share the exact definitions, because, for example, I head up the Experience More megatrend, and there are, multiple metrics that go into each trend to measure it. So definitely, I can put my contacts in the chat and definitely get in touch so I can help you understand, one, the concept, how we've defined it, and equally the metrics that we've used to measure it.
Yeah, perfect. All right, next is Leon. It says, in your uneven recovery slide, what are these columns? Actual values or percentage inbound, outbound?
They were actually the ratio to 2019 average levels. So it's a way for us to kind of try and demonstrate the recovery level relative to where we were pre-COVID. So inbound, outbound relative to same metric averaged over 2019.
Okay, all right. Going back to Caroline, this is from Ken Scott. Ken is asking, Caroline, elaborate on methodology behind Euromonitor's data gathering, especially regarding travel in Asia Pacific.
Well, the data that I presented today is from our consumer lifestyles and travel survey. That is an annual survey that we can conduct in 40 countries around the world. And you're looking at 40,000 global respondents. We tend to see around about 10 to 12,000 respondents in Asia Pacific. And so for every, actually, I think I showed some of the country data. So we have, the usual suspects, China, Hong Kong, Japan, India, etc. But it's quite extensive. And it does mean that we can then sort of build up from those country results to, by generation, by income, by, by gender, etc. So yeah, it's a really interesting study. And as I say, we can follow the trends. But then that's just the survey. And as you know, Euromonitor produces a huge amount of tourism data. So we have our passport travel, we have our forecast model, and that in itself is is another conversation. Again, I'm happy to have a follow-up chat if you need more details about anything that we're producing at Euromonitor.
Yeah, and Euromonitor does produce a lot of research on a lot of different subjects. So, do check them out. Go to their website and find more information about what Euromonitor does. It's a lot more research. Even when I think I went to the website, I was surprised there was even sections on wellness. So do check out their website to find out more, and feel free to reach out, Caroline, if you want more detailed information. Next question here is, in your opinion, what areas of tourism that AI can be used as an immediate solution to improve tourism outlook, if possible? Anybody want to answer that? Leon's shaking his head. Leon's like everywhere, right? He's like everything. No, Leon, what's your reaction to this?
Yeah, how long do we have, Paul? So we spoke about this a little bit during the summit, and I think it's, I could, talking to some of the delegates, particularly those in the travel agency industry, I can see it's a bit of a source of concern. I guess our view is that like AI as a tool, it's already starting to show up in lots of parts of the traveler journey. So like your banks are using it already to help segment customer bases and identify potential future behaviors. So for example, we at Visa, we have a capability which we refer to as Travel Predict. And what it does is it models a card member's spending behaviors, and we can use it to predict with a fair degree of accuracy when and where a card member is going to be traveling. And not only that, we can kind of predict the type of merchants they're going to be shopping at when they reach that destination. And we use that data and those models with our banking partners to enable them to kind of provide contextual, relevant communications and offers to their customers. I think it was funny. I think on the Tuesday or Wednesday of the summit, Google had announced a module that they were adding to their Gemini generative AI chatbot that will allow you to ask it for travel itineraries, and it will then kind of provide that to you. And through that experience, you can actually check out of those itineraries. They won't be perfect to start with, but like these models have to learn. But we're starting to see it pop up in lots of areas of the travel experience. So what can we do about it as a collective? I guess one is embrace that technology beyond just using it as a kind of surrogate help desk assistant, but there are other ways which I think we can start to think about it. So like these models need to learn from data that they scrape from publicly available sources, right? So when Google Gemini is learning about Phnom Penh or Siem Reap as a destination to provide that recommendation to another a searcher, making sure that our information that's available in the public sphere is up to date is a good way that you can make sure that when those models are scraping that information to present to people, the most up-to-date information is there, and your destinations, your experiences are being appropriately highlighted. We could talk about this for hours. So these are kind of initial thinking, but perhaps if people are interested, we can set up a follow-up discussion just on AI, because we could talk about it a lot.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a subject that we've been approached about, and we may, we're having thinking about doing an AI webinar, but yes, we'll get to that. That's a whole different conversation. Caroline or Dr. Liu, you want to add to that? Want to add to that sort of to the response, or?
I mean, just anything to do with AI, we just have to be, again, very careful. As we know, it perpetuates bias, it perpetuates misinformation, as Leon was saying. So it's like, yes, we we can't just ignore it. And, I've been on many webinars, and it's like we have to kind of not be scared of this new technology. We have to embrace it. It is an enabler. And but we also need to use it responsibly and carefully. So I think what Leon said was perfect. Keep everything, clean, up to date, and that helps, these models become better. Definitely, we all have a responsibility to be part of that.
Dr. Liu?
Just from the academic perspective, in Hong Kong Poly, we are developing a digital training system for the canteen in hotels. So we can see that in the future, it will be widely used for the training of our industry. And we also do some internal tests to see if ChatGPT can generate more accurate forecasts than us. But so far, we are safe. Our forecasts are more accurate than ChatGPT.
I don't know if you should be telling us this, Dr. Liu, but it's interesting to see that, I actually think the examples that Leon had raised and Dr. Liu has raised is very interesting. And I said, we can talk about AI all day. It could be a whole day conference on that. I'll just do last few questions, and that's it. So this one will probably be easier for Leon to answer. I'll do that one first. Leon, can private business organizations access the Visa Travel Report for free?
I believe there are kind of bite-sized versions of the insights that may be available on visa.com. I think for Visa members, Visa partners, there are versions of it that are slimmed down that people can access. And I think the full report is on a paid basis. But if that person would just like to get in touch, we can kind of discuss like what if there are particular insights that are of interest, like what can be shared. But yeah, it's generally for Visa partners, but we can discuss the distribution if there's a good need.
All right. Well, I guess whoever asked a question, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to connect you with Leon, and then you can delve more into getting that travel report. Okay. So last question here. I'll take it from Santosh Kumar. What kind of travel do you see for India? Would be more inbound or outbound? I guess I'll go first with Dr. Liu. What do you see?
Well, from our forecast, we see very strong visitor flows, both inbound and outbound from or to India. But another issue is that the destination image and also visa restrictions are the main constraints for the further development of the Indian market.
And that would be for that's the restrictions in terms of inbound, right? The visa restrictions and yeah. Right. Leon, Caroline, same thoughts on India, or? Yeah,
I mean, just the conversations I had at the Macau summit were that there's a lot of interest in India as a source market, especially that China hasn't come back. And as we've seen, I think there's very long-term growth potential and value potential in the Indian market. And also just they have such a connected transport system. You've got rail, you've got air, so it's a very interesting market on both perspectives.
Leon?
No, I think Dr. Liu and Caroline summed it up. I think it's a huge opportunity, India outbound. I was looking at some economic forecasts. I think looking at the economic growth of India over the last kind of 10 years, there's been a huge growth in like wealth levels in India, and I think that will eventually translate into strong like outbound interest coming from there. So we're watching it closely as well.
Well, it seems like somebody's actually using AI on this webinar and doing some takeaways from it, talking about AI. All right. Well, that's I think we're over the time. So really, thank you so much to Caroline, Leon, and Dr. Liu for joining today's webinar and for presenting. And thank you so much for your continued support for PATA and for also your support for our upcoming release of our reports, our individual destination forecast reports, as well as our mid-year updates on our Asia Pacific forecast. So thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you so much, Leon, and thank you so much, Dr. Liu. And I'll see you guys next time. But for everyone else, please stay here. I'll just do a quick wrap. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So I know I mentioned this earlier before, but just for those who will be asking again, Presentations, we will be sending an update about the presentations next week with our thank you letter to all of our delegates, as well as a link to the webinar recording. The webinar recording, of course, is for members only or registered delegates for today's webinar. So once you receive it, please do not share it with any third party or share it publicly. Now, if you enjoyed today's webinar, I just want to let you know that, of course, today's webinar was in conjunction with our upcoming reports. Our destination forecast reports is 39 individual destinations that we've done specific forecasts for. So that will be available on June 25th, as well as our Asia Pacific visitor forecast mid-year updates for 2024 to 2026. So once that is available, just go to the POTA catalog, pota.org/catalog, and you can download them there. Of course, if you're a member, chapter member, there's different price ranges depending on which category you're in, if you're a member, partner, or a government member. All right. And just a note about some of our upcoming activities that are happening. Of course, if you don't know yet, we have our POTA Travel Mart 2024 happening in Bangkok, Thailand from August 27th to 29th at the Queen Sittergate National Convention Center. So if you're a buyer, seller, or you want to be a trade visitor, please do register today. Trade visitor registration isn't open yet, but of course, if you want to be a buyer or a seller, we are accepting applications for that. So feel free to contact us or scan the QR code or go to www.pota.org and register today. Besides that, we also have our POTA Destination Marketing Forum that's taking place from November 12th to 14th in Thailand. That's just like an hour and a half outside of Bangkok. This is hosted by TCEP, Phetchaburi Province, DASA, as well as TAT. The event is complimentary for all delegates. We only do ask for a $10 fee that goes towards carbon offsetting the events. Besides that, the event is free. It's a one-day destination experience as well as a one-day conference. So please do join us today. Registration is open. So register today, scan the QR code, or visit our website. And with that, that is the end of the webinar. If you have any questions about today's webinar, about any of the activities that I've shown on the screen, about anything about POTA, feel free to contact me. My email is paul@pota.org, or of course, just go to our website, www.pota.org. And with that, once again, thank you to our speakers, to Leon, Caroline, and Dr. Liu for taking time out of their busy schedules to be with us today to present on sort of the outlook for travel recovery. Thank you, as always, to our executive board, our life members, our partners, as well as our chapter members for the continued support for the association. Without that, none of this is possible. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for joining us here today for today's webinar. I will see you at our next webinar or at our upcoming events, POTA Travel Mart or POTA Destination Marketing Forum. Take care, stay safe, see you soon. Bye.